I spent a very long time trying to explain my relationship with my ex in normal person language. That was my first mistake. Because normal person language assumes there is a point where behavior becomes so irrational that everybody involved goes, okay, obviously we should stop doing this. No, some people reach that point and think, interesting, but what if we added napalm? That's innovation. That's a growth mindset. Eventually, I realized my primary role in this relationship was basically FEMA, not wife, not girlfriend. FEMA. Housing problem? I respond. Money problem? I respond. Vehicle problem? I respond. Kid problem? I respond. Mortgage headed toward foreclosure? Mortgage modification. Need a better career? I research the industry and find a pathway for both of us to get CDLs. And every time I finally get one fire under control, here comes a grown man with a 5-gallon bucket of napalm. Not even necessarily for the original fire. Sometimes there was no original fire. Sometimes you just look over and suddenly 3 people need transportation. Somebody's bank account is empty, a vehicle is damaged, the kid's schedule is blown up, and a nonprofit organization has received an email. That's napalm. At one point, we were about to lose a rental. Kids, pets, basically nowhere to go. And within something like a week or two, I somehow traded a shitty Jeep for a camper. Already had this enormous 1981 Dodge Ram van capable of pulling it. Found storage, moved everything, cleaned the rental, and found us a quaint little family campground where we could work part-time in exchange for a campsite and hookups. I basically assembled emergency housing out of Craigslist, desperation, and raw executive function. And somehow, in the middle of all that, I'm still being asked, why are you so stressed? I don't know. Maybe because FEMA is supposed to be an agency, not one woman with a van. And this went on long enough that I became very good at what I call upstream purchases. I don't buy things because I have money. I buy things because I have problems. Every purchase has a business plan. If I spend $150 here, I can save $300 a month, 6 hours of labor, 3 future emergencies, and approximately 4 cups of dog urine. That's not shopping. That's municipal planning. For example, I smoke, not proud of it, but cigarettes are $7, $10, $12 a pack. So on a very tight budget, I finally make one bigger investment in an electric cigarette making machine. Now a pack costs me around $1. Takes a couple minutes. Machine pays for itself. That is a tool, not in the sense of a screwdriver. A tool in the sense of I spend money once, so I stop hemorrhaging money forever. I come home, the prong is broken off the power cord. Wonderful. Now I have the original problem plus a broken solution. That is the household equivalent of setting fire to the fire extinguisher. Same thing with the dog. He insisted we get another puppy during a period when I was already so exhausted I could barely train myself. And of course, she's your dog. Fantastic. She's an Australian Shepherd cattle dog mix. For anyone unfamiliar with that combination, their exercise requirement is approximately a ranch. This dog does not want to walk. She wants employment. She wants a pension. If you don't give this dog a job, she will create a startup. And when she's understimulated and anxious, she can sometimes leak little bits of urine. Not, I forgot where outside is. More, my nervous system has elected to depreciate the property. So I finally get a decent bicycle and buy a proper bike tow attachment. Dog gets the kind of exercise her nervous system actually needs. Training gets easier. She's calmer. I get exercise. We can travel more easily. And most importantly, the house has a fighting chance of not becoming a negative equity canine urinal. That is not a cute dog accessory. That is property preservation infrastructure. I come home, bike tire ripped off the rim. Again, original problem plus broken solution. At some point I'm thinking, I really need to stop solving things. Apparently solutions are attracting predators. And then there are the things that simply disappear. Now, normal theft makes sense. You take the valuable stuff. Not here. This is curated. Beautiful dining table, specifically gifted to me for the house? Gone. Matching antique lamps? Gone. Recliner from my parents? Gone. Stoneware cutting board I got as my Christmas gift because it was one of those nice things I would never normally justify buying myself? Gone. Little wooden shelf my dad made before I was even born and I've carried from house to house for decades? Gone. You know what stayed? Crushed cardboard boxes. Dirty ones. On the porch I had just cleaned. That is not moving. That is an art installation called Fuck You, Mixed Media on Wood. And yes, he also apparently took every screwdriver out of the main floor junk drawers. Every screwdriver. I didn't even know we owned enough screwdrivers for this to constitute an event. Like, okay, dining table, heirloom shelf, stoneware, 17 Phillips heads, strong exit strategy. But my favorite disappearing object will always be the key fob. The first time my key fob disappeared, I was told the dog ate it. The dog, A-T, the key fob. Not chewed it, not carried it under the couch. Apparently this dog consumed the entire keychain into another dimension. No plastic, no metal, no remnants, nothing. And this dog does not normally eat random household objects. She is not a Labrador with a side hustle at AutoZone, but apparently that day she woke up and thought, know what sounds good? A Chrysler. Then eventually, he admits he took it. Oh, excellent. I would like the record corrected. The dog has been exonerated. Then not that long afterward, key fob disappears again. And this time, other items that had been attached to the keychain start turning up separately. Not chewed, not mangled, just removed and left in places. So now I'm apparently walking through a staged canine crime scene. Sir, you already confessed to key fob 1. You cannot come back for the sequel and expect me to believe. The dog did it too, fob harder. Or, I know what your dog did last summer, part infinity.
That was my idea.
At this point, the dog needs counsel. She is being framed. And apparently she also suffers from an extraordinarily rare form of intermittent pica. For those unfamiliar, pica is eating non-food items, but hers is very specific. No socks, no garbage, no furniture, no random plastic. Apparently, she only develops an appetite for entire automotive keychains during periods when somebody suspects I may see the same significant other I have openly acknowledged for years. Remarkable condition. Veterinary science is baffled. Oh no, she might see her actual boyfriend. Better eat the Chrysler. And selective disappearance doesn't end there. I had finally assembled one really functional travel toiletry bag. I don't buy much makeup. I use it very sparingly. But I had finally allowed myself to replace my Bare Minerals foundation. For me, $50 on foundation feels like I financed a yacht. Even though it lasts forever, works well with my skin, I care about the ingredients, and because I use so little, it is actually a completely rational purchase. Still, FEMA doesn't usually have a cosmetics budget, but I finally had this compact travel bag set up. Toiletries, water flosser, the few personal care things I actually use. Brand new Bare Minerals. Perfect. And I had been traveling enough that having one bag packed and functional was a real quality of life improvement. Then the bag disappears from my van, and I'm told, well, the van was unlocked. Already weird. Because after having a vehicle robbed once, I lock that van religiously. But okay, apparently somebody got into the van, stole the toiletry bag, and left the giant, obvious portable lockbox containing high-demand controlled prescriptions. So somewhere in town, we apparently have a burglar going, Adderall, pass, Suboxone, no thank you. Is that Bare Minerals original foundation? We are dealing with the most skincare conscious criminal in Michigan. Excellent complexion, terrible street instincts. And then there's the snooping. Now, snooping is actually too gentle because sometimes he gets into the phone, sometimes individual accounts, Facebook, Messenger, messages other people as me without identifying himself. Leaves things designed to make it appear I'm saying or doing things I'm not. And after enough years of this, I actually got lax about passcodes because I'm like, why bother? He's going to get in anyway. And here's the part that fascinates me. I am honest to a fault. There is so much actual transparency available. So this man will gain unauthorized access to the actual primary source material and still get it wrong. You have the texts, you have the messages. You have Facebook, Messenger, you have bypassed rumor. You are literally conducting unauthorized discovery. And somehow you emerge with a theory less accurate than if you had interviewed a squirrel. I'm like, dude, if you're going to violate my privacy, could you at least read basic English? One time there was a message in my inbox about Bowling Green. I had not read the message. I had made no plans. I didn't even know we were talking about Bowling Green, Kentucky. And suddenly I'm being accused of secretly planning a trip to Bowling Green, Kentucky. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? You know? No, actually I don't. He knew more about my inbox than I did, and I still had the more accurate understanding of my own life. That is talent. At some point, Occam's razor stopped being a razor. It was standing in the corner with a megaphone screaming, "Read the fucking sentence." And heaven forbid I spoke to another male human being. One time I had a conversation with a man, in public, after an event. That's it. Normal interpretation, 2 adults spoke. His interpretation apparently required an affair, a conspiracy, harassment, contacting the man's wife through a fake account, and eventually threatening an entire nonprofit organization if they didn't remove this man from leadership. And I'm like, wait, we're punishing the organization now? Apparently. That is where jealousy becomes infrastructure policy. I said, even if you believed something happened, which it didn't, why are you trying to destroy somebody else's marriage? And the basic answer was, because it's justified. Wow. Okay, that's not jealousy. That's a hostile takeover with no underlying asset. And this is what I mean by napalm. There wasn't an affair, there wasn't even a fire. But somehow by the end, we've got a fake account, somebody's wife, an entire board of directors, and a threatened organizational leadership crisis. 5 gallons. Every time. And the wild part is, I barely socialized because every human interaction came with paperwork. Friend says hello, investigation. Guy comments on Facebook that I seem like a decent person, investigation. Old school friend has a heart attack and I stop by. Apparently we need a task force. At some point, isolation wasn't even loneliness. It was efficient. I'm like, okay, apparently friendship has a 14-page incident report. Never mind. And of course later, you don't have anybody. Yes, because every time I get somebody, you open a case file. Meanwhile, he could become extremely passionate about causes, crime, corruption, investigations, protecting children. At one point, there was even a Pizzagate-era Washington, D.C. activist adventure, and I'm at home thinking, wow, fantastic. While you are metaphorically fighting international pedophilia, I am over here dealing with actual children, actual food, actual housing, actual schooling, actual safety, actual predators, actual reports to actual authorities. It's like living with Batman. If Batman spent all night posting about Gotham online and left Alfred to raise Robin, and I'm Alfred. Except Alfred also pays child support. He didn't even show up to his own divorce and custody hearing. I was requesting sole physical and legal custody. No objection. Couldn't make it. Busy elsewhere. Later, completely different story. Suddenly, I am apparently history's most dangerous mother. And this is where I learned something important. Never underestimate the ability of somebody who refuses responsibility to become very interested in authority, especially authority over you. So years go by, I keep rebuilding. Housing, jobs, kids, vehicles, finances. Eventually I buy a house, a decent house, affordable, mortgage around $600 a month. This is not a mansion. This is a gift from the housing gods. Between 2 full-time adults, you should practically have to try to lose it. Challenge accepted. Within months, contributions stop. Again, eventually we're staring at foreclosure, formal auction approaching, and I find a mortgage modification. Save the house. Again. Because remember, FEMA. And then I think maybe earning power is part of the problem. So I research CDL training, find a pathway, help him get into it first. Maybe earning more will improve self-esteem. Maybe more resources will create stability. Maybe if income is less asymmetric, contribution will improve. That was adorable. I used to believe income was the limiting variable. Turns out the limiting variable was contribution. You can make $40 an hour and still somehow behave like money is an invasive species. And finally, I say, this is not sustainable. I'm dedicated to our children. I'm dedicated to keeping their lives stable. I am not continuing this romantic relationship. His solution? Remarry me. Not, I should contribute consistently. Not, I should finish the bathroom I tore apart. Not, I should perhaps stop napalming every functioning system you build. No, remarry me, and not romantically. Not, here is a ring, I love you, I have reflected. More like, remarry me now or else. Ladies, if a marriage proposal contains the phrase or else, that is not romance. That is a hostage negotiation with a registry. I said no, which apparently caused quite a bit of distress because I had committed the unforgivable act of saying, I will continue caring for our children, but I will not legally vow to absorb infinite damage. Very selfish. And this is when we enter what I call projection, the musical. He does something, then accuses me of doing it, sometimes almost simultaneously. At some point, projection stops being a defense mechanism and starts looking like close-up magic. Observe as I take my behavior and place it over there. Ta-da! And if you point out what just happened, advanced level, Darvo, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Sounds clinical. In practical terms, I didn't do that. You're crazy for saying I did that. And frankly, I am deeply wounded that you would accuse me. Meanwhile, you're standing there looking at the thing he definitely did. Like, okay, but the bathroom is still missing a wall. Which finally brings us to the current season. I leave town for what is supposed to be a short trip. My Chrysler decides this is an excellent time to become an electrical theology problem. Suddenly, I am stranded in Mississippi for weeks, learning TIP-Ms, wind modules, immobilizers, secret keys, wiring diagrams, things I had absolutely no intention of adding to my spiritual curriculum. At one point, I have multiple AIs helping me diagnose this vehicle. They are all staring hypnotically at secret key sent to engine, no. Meanwhile, I'm saying, okay, but sometimes it runs 2 minutes, sometimes 8, sometimes 17, sometimes 20. And apparently, Chrysler engineers built a system where the difference between transportation and homelessness is one connector going, maybe. So while I am hundreds of miles away, basically performing an electrical exorcism on a town and country, he is moving out, taking the kids, getting another house, taking selected furniture, leaving bills, leaving junk, leaving the bathroom torn apart. And I finally get the van functioning well enough to come home, walk into the house, and I'm like, oh, good. The Chrysler wasn't the emergency. That was apparently just the opening act. I have returned for FEMA, homecoming, boxes, missing property, broken useful things, bathroom still destroyed, bills stacked up, kids moved, school about to start, and somehow I am once again the person expected to create order from this. Then I hear through the grapevine, the new girlfriend is a counselor. And I'm sorry, I had a moment. Not because counselors can't have messy relationships, of course they can, they're people. But still, it is a little like finding out the man who keeps setting your kitchen on fire is dating a smoke detector technician. You pause, you go, interesting pairing. And apparently things moved along fairly quickly. And again, maybe she's wonderful. Maybe she has techniques. Maybe she comes home and says, have you tried grounding? And he says, yes, I grounded 3 vehicles. She says, let's discuss accountability. He says, absolutely, my ex needs some. She says, Les, do you recognize projection? He says, yes, she does that constantly. And somewhere across town, I just fall backward into a lawn chair because that's the final exam. What do we call accusing somebody else of exactly what you yourself are doing? Projection. Correct. Bonus round. What happens when you deny your behavior, attack the person confronting you, and reverse the roles until suddenly you're the victim? Darvo. Excellent. Congratulations. You may now begin your practicum. And by practicum, I mean living with him. But genuinely, and this is where the story gets surprisingly hopeful, I have discovered an upside. Because for the first time in a very long time, I may be able to fix something and have it stay fixed. Do you understand how exciting that is? I could put an object somewhere, walk away, come back later, and the object might still be there. I am learning object permanence for adults. Apparently, other people have been living like this the whole time. You put a screwdriver in a drawer Tuesday, and Thursday, same screwdriver. I thought that was folklore. I may be able to buy a household item without developing an evacuation plan for it. I may be able to repair something once. Apparently, there are households where maintenance means fix the broken thing, not fix the broken thing, then fix what happened to the thing you used to fix the broken thing, then locate the thing that disappeared while you were fixing the first thing, then defend the dog. This is revolutionary. Maybe strategic household investments can remain operational. Maybe heirlooms can just remain heirlooms. Maybe my porch can stay clean for longer than 15 minutes. Maybe if I put something somewhere, that location will continue to contain that thing. Object permanence. For adults, I'm excited. I may cry the first time it happens, and sure, I know chaos has Wi-Fi. Changing addresses does not necessarily eliminate creative interference. But there is something deeply peaceful about realizing that at least some percentage of the entropy has also changed addresses. FEMA may finally reduce staffing, the Emergency Operations Center can close, and after years of crisis management, delayed reactions, containing everything because somebody has to remain functional, the complaints department can finally open. 2-drink minimum. And if tomorrow something important disappears for the first time in years, I can look that dog directly in the eyes and say, "Don't worry, girl, you're off the suspect list."